Let me ask you a simple question. Do you feel like your career is not skyrocketing? Do you feel like you're in a situation where essentially you're not getting enough opportunities to grow within your space or your market? Well, in today's video, I really want to be talking about how you can articulate your value and redefine your career trajectory, helping you secure real opportunities that you deserve. Now, of course, if you want to stay around and see other videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe, especially for future videos. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Michael Tabirade. I'm an independent management consultant and founder of the consultancy, The Mastery Group. Now let's get into the video. Now, I want to talk about the election for a second. As many of you guys know, the election was a big part of changing how the UK job market was operating. Okay, so I think it launched end of May. Rishi Sunak decided to call an election to basically say, look, let the British people vote to see who should be running the country, essentially. And what that meant was there was a lot of things on hold. Okay, and so with that in mind, that looks like a lot of different opportunities not being laid out on the table. It meant there was political uncertainty when it came to different things. And from a contracting and consulting standpoint, it also meant that actually it was very difficult to plan. Because let's be real, if you were a consultant or contractor within that space and it was around February, March, or whatever it may be, the reality is the people who hired you were probably like, well, we've been told by ministers that actually we can't really do anything. There's no opportunity for us to guarantee that you can stay within this space. And so it meant that a lot of these different consultants and contractors were essentially not kicked out of a role, but they didn't have a role to go back to post March for a bit, potentially. Maybe not every single one, but potentially. And it was a situation where it's difficult to find a job. In addition to those people who are finding a job anyway, it made it very difficult. So with that in mind, there was also this whole opportunity in my mind to think about, what did I actually need to do? What do I actually need to do? We talk about this in the emotional agility model. Okay, so this is really where you may feel a sense of frustration or anger, and then you actually define what you actually feel, and you decide, actually, I'm just annoyed. Okay, I'm not even angry. I'm just annoyed at the situation. And then you think to yourself, based on my values, what do I want to do? So your values being the things that you deem as important. And in this instance, it was the value of ambition, the value of security. These are the things that I needed to make sure that I secured. And so I needed to think to myself, how can I ensure that this never happens again? What do I need to start thinking of? And it's that sort of approach that has enabled me to start thinking about a way to really provide value when applying for roles. So I want to talk to you about something I call the PAR model. Okay. Now, essentially, the PAR model is an opportunity for you to really extract that value. What do I mean? So again, as I was going through this tumultuous time of really thinking about how do I make sure I'm attractive to the marketplace, I was like, what do I actually need to do? So what did I do? I started looking at my CV. I started looking at my experiences. I started looking at other people's LinkedIn profiles and other online portfolios that really expunged value. And I was just thinking to myself, what makes them unique? What makes them stand out? And so for me, upon reading all these different types of individuals' CVs and profiles and portfolios publicly online, I began to understand that actually there was a common thread. And for me, that common thread was defined as problem, action, result. Problem, action, result. PAR. I was like, I need to be on par in order to make sure that I'm applicable or viable to apply for a certain specific contract or role. Of course, I'm going to talk more about what PAR really is, but that's essentially what happened. And so implementing this model, I essentially allowed myself to understand what each element means. Okay. So for example, when it came to P was defining the strategic problem that I was solving, the strategic problem. And if I didn't have a strategic problem to solve, then I needed to think harder. How do you define a strategic problem? That's looking at what were the policies, what were the strategies that were aligned to the work you were doing that you helped to solve. That's the first thing. The second thing I looked at was the actions. What actions did I take? What did I do to deliver and implement value based on these strategic problems? And the final thing was, what specifically did I get in terms of results? And when thinking about results, they had to be tangible. They needed to be efficiency based. They needed to be based on a monetary value. They needed to be based on a quality metric. They needed to be able to really highlight some positive change that I contributed to or implemented myself. So really, what were the benefits for those change management and project management professionals out there? And so with that in mind, this whole process helped me become extremely confident within the marketplace. Now, before I continue, the question I want to ask you is, how do you currently showcase your professional value? It's a great question to ask because we're in a world of LinkedIn and, all these different things there, but how do you actually showcase your value? Think about that question deeply. I'd love to know your thoughts below. Secondly, as we get to the end of this, could you apply a structured model like PAR to your experience? Is this something that you're looking for? So leave your comments below. In addition, if you are a business leader or somebody who has some sort of senior management career development journey, then I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're looking to transition into a better paid role, a higher paid role, contracting or consulting, anything of that demeanor. Feel free to message me and we can start moving forward in terms of how we maneuver. Let's keep it moving. So let's dive into the PAR model in a bit more detail. So again, you want to be able to start thinking about what strategic challenges you help to solve. Really important stuff. So what I did here was essentially I looked at different strategies and policies. And I did this for each of my experiences. I broke it down. So I went back, maybe it was an NHS England strategy, or maybe it was a Natural England strategy, or whatever it may be. And I looked back to see what had been written officially about that thing and tried to understand, how does this align with me as a person? How does this align? What did I contribute in relation to this? And once I was able to read this stuff, I'd put it into a document and write down the information with the link that highlighted this information. And then alongside with ChatGPT and speaking to other people that I used to work with, I would essentially write down a statement or a paragraph that explains the problem. That's essentially what I'd do. So essentially, it needs to be clear in terms of what that specifically looks like. In addition to that, I started to think to myself, what actions did I specifically take? Now, when thinking about the different actions and stuff, you need to think about the methodology, okay? If you are a project manager and these people are looking for waterfall approaches or an agile approach, what methodology did you use? So did you use managing successful programs? Did you use Prince 2? Did you use PMP? Like, what did you do? And if so, is there evidence of that through the thread of your roles and responsibilities? If you can't see that thread, it doesn't make sense. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I'm looking at CVs, I want to know that they've applied a certain methodology. I want to see that thread. So you started off with a strategic problem that you've got from a strategy document or a policy or whatever it may be. You've now moved into a space where you're writing your responsibilities as you would in any CV, as an example. And then following on from that, you want to be clear about, okay, cool. Based on this strategy and this policy, I did these actions following this methodology that's recognized amongst people who do roles like this. What now must I do in terms of highlighting the benefits? Like, what does that look like? So this is where you have to make sure that it is a measurable outcome. So a percentage, a number, some dollar signs or pound signs, a change. What happened initially and what was the result? Showing that change, okay, is really, really important. And if you can't do that, you need to think harder. really difficult. This took me about a month to do, you know. This wasn't a walk in the park sort of exercise. It took me a month to do it for every single piece of experience, work experience that I've done. I went through everything from the admin roles all the way up to the program management roles as a consultant. So think about all of this stuff. So I say case studies and success. If I'm being honest with you, I am my own case study. I did help someone else utilize this. So there are two individuals. One was a friend, one was an acquaintance. And essentially, what I did was I helped them understand specifically what strategic problem they actually got solved. What strategic problem did that actually get solved? And essentially help them understand what specific different actions that they took. And sometimes it just takes someone to talk to. Sometimes it takes ChatGPT to help clarify your thinking. Now, do you rely heavily on ChatGPT? Definitely not. I definitely would not rely heavily on ChatGPT, because even, you know, when I did this little experiment where I just thought, actually, let me just see what ChatGPT has to say. I was like, okay, I hear what it's trying to say, but it hasn't actually fully captured it. So you need to be in a position where you do actually understand what you did previously before. And this is why you start with the strategic problem. It makes common sense. You know, this stuff can be used for other stuff, but I'll keep it moving in terms of like an approach for that. So again, I've spoken about how I've guided people to use the PAR model. And again, if this is something that you're interested in implementing in your stuff, of course you can try it yourself, or I can help you implement this stuff for yourself. So like a good bonus here. So the bonus tip here is make sure to use PAR within your strategic networking. What do I mean by this? Well, essentially, in a nutshell, if we think about it, PAR stands for problem, action, result. When speaking to someone, you need to be able to say who you are. Okay, so I'm a program management consultant that specializes in digital transformation within the healthcare sector. It's not a lie. That's my niche. That's my deep, deep niche when it comes to consulting. Okay, maybe you want to talk about specific problems that you help solve. So for me, I help organizations and businesses with their day-to-day program management, focusing on governance, project controls, and project assurance, making sure deliverables are met to time, scope, and budget. It's very specific. I haven't rehearsed this, by the way. Like, this is not rehearsed. This is not anything I've written down. This is just what I'm saying. What actions have I taken, or what actions did I take? Okay, actions that I take include, number one, making sure that I set up the right project controls within the business. Number two, making sure that the right governance is embedded within the space so that we're working to a framework. Number three, ensuring that there is the right escalation channels and reporting structures to make sure that we monitor projects effectively. Number four, making sure that we've scoped out the program sensibly, making sure it's aligned to the organization's business goals, objectives, and key stakeholders. Again, how am I saying this stuff? It's because I know it. I know it. What sort of results have you got? Again, key benefits. Maybe it is I was able to contribute to saving X amount of pounds when it came to implementing a more efficient digital system that improved the processes. Maybe it's something centered around I was able to turn around X amount of products that was 50% more productive. Maybe it's a situation where you say, out of, 50 deliverables, 48 were delivered on time, on budget, and in scope, where the other 2 were extended by an additional 2 months, if you wanted that honesty factor there. Specific, clear, to the point. You know your stuff. So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to PAR. Be clear about what you know when it comes to this side of things. And before I even get into the summary bit, PAR can be used within the business space. If you're developing some sort of landing page, problem, actions, result. What are the problem that you're helping people solve? What actions will you take in order to help them solve that problem? What results are they expecting? Benefits do they want realized? When you're speaking to someone, again, you can talk about these things, the problems that you help people solve. some of the actions that you take, and some key results that you may want to talk about. When you're developing a portfolio or a CV, you would have, and this is something that I advise one of my friends to do, you put a one-liner problem in the actual experience that you're talking about. Then you've got the responsibilities that you talk about as the meat of it. Let's say 6 to 8 different responsibilities following the thread of the methodology. And then at the end, you want to talk about 1 or 2 key achievements that you specifically contributed to or achieved. Language is important here. Make sure you get the language correct. So when we think about the summary and really bringing this all together, the general election was a difficult time, and it caused all of these situations where recruiting halted. This forced me to start thinking about a model to help me extrapolate value even more so. And essentially, it led me to think more strategically about the problems I solved, the actions that I took, and again, the results that I obtained. Furthermore, it's helped me help other colleagues and individuals essentially implement this PAR model. And again, if this is something that you're interested in implementing, then please do feel free to let me know. And of course, it's important for us to connect. So if you haven't connected with me already, connect with me on LinkedIn, YouTube, or TikTok. I'm basically on all other social medias, including Instagram. But again, if you want a competitive edge as a business leader in today's current climate, make sure to definitely book a call with me. I've got loads of little free stuff in the description as well. Again, if you like videos centered around consulting and contracting, portfolio careers, and life management, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.